So, this isn't just another ghost story. We're diving into a real, documented paranormal investigation that took place in Delhi. This case was led by the legendary investigator, the late Gaurav Tiwari. We're going to explore how a seemingly small problem in a family's home exploded into a full blown crisis, and how it uncovered a secret that completely blurred the line between the living and the dead. And that quote, it just nails the atmosphere in the home of Samir and Ria. For 2 whole years, their apartment, Flat 402, it was their happy place. But then one night, all of that peace just shattered. The very air in their home started to feel heavy, like it was filled with this unspoken, unseen dread. So where does a haunting actually start? Well, a lot of times it begins with the ones who are most sensitive to things we can't see. For Samir and Ria, the very first sign that something was seriously wrong came from their dog, Bruno. Out of nowhere, he started acting weird, just staring, completely frozen, at an empty window for hours at a time. Now look at how fast this all happens. This timeline shows you just how quickly a simple worry about their dog spiraled into a total crisis in less than a day. The vet says the dog is perfectly healthy, but then Ria just collapses for no reason. Samir knew, right then and there, this wasn't something a regular doctor could fix. And this is the moment everything changes. Samir, completely terrified and totally out of options, makes a call that, let's be honest, most of us would never even think of making. He reaches out for a professional, but not a doctor or a therapist. He calls in an expert on the paranormal. So, in walks Gaurav Tiwari and his team. But here's the thing, they're not coming in with superstitions and rituals. They're coming in with tech. They immediately start setting up all their gear, basically turning this poor couple's home into a paranormal laboratory. They were there to analyze whatever was causing all this chaos. And this just shows you how scientific their approach was. They weren't just, looking for ghosts. They were looking for measurable data. They used thermal sensors because spirits are thought to pull energy right out of the air, creating these intense cold spots. EMF meters, those are for finding spikes in electromagnetic fields, which is another classic sign. And those high-tech audio recorders are trying to capture what's known as EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. Basically, voices and sounds our ears can't pick up. They were trying to measure the unmeasurable. All right, so all the equipment is running, the room is dead quiet, and Gaurav starts the attempt to communicate. He uses a pretty simple device, asks a direct question, and gives it a way to give a yes or no answer. It's a clean, controlled experiment designed to get one clear answer. Is anyone here? And then, the moment that changes absolutely everything. A single, distinct beep cuts through that silence. That's it. That's the confirmation. They are definitely not alone. And whatever is in that room with them is intelligent and it's ready to talk. The communication really picks up from here. Gaurav's questions start off pretty simple. Do you know Samir or Ria? One beep, yes. But watch what happens next. When he asks if it's there because of someone else, the response is immediate and chaotic, just this frantic, nonstop beeping. And that's a huge clue. The entity's anger isn't aimed at the couple. It's aimed at some outside force. Just as they're getting their first real lead, bam, the entity completely lashes out. The EMF meter's battery just plummets from 90% to 5% in seconds. Cameras just die, and Samir's phone, which happens to start ringing, gets so hot he can barely touch it. The power drain is so insane, the entire investigation grinds to a halt. Okay, so the tech approach is dead in the water. A lesser investigator might have just packed it in right there. But not Gaurav. He realizes he needs to switch tactics. The answer isn't going to be found in electromagnetic fields anymore. It's somewhere in the human history of that apartment. He suspects this isn't just some random energy. It's a person with a story. And after confronting the landlord, the story comes tumbling out. Turns out the previous tenant was a young man named Ankush. He died right there, in that apartment. He had taken his own life after the woman he was in love with promised to marry him and then left him for somebody else. Talking with Ankush's mother? Wow. This is what provides the emotional core of this whole mystery. Her words are absolutely heartbreaking, but they also hand Gaurav the key psychological motive. See, Ankush didn't just die from a broken heart. He died with this deep, burning hatred for one specific thing, betrayal. So, armed with this powerful new information, Gaurav heads back to Flat 402. But now, he has this wild new theory. This haunting wasn't random at all. It was a reaction, and it was triggered by something that had just happened inside those very walls. This is the million-dollar question, right? For 2 whole years, Ankush's spirit had been quiet, maybe even finding some weird kind of peace just watching Samir and Ria's happy, faithful relationship. It was probably a reflection of the love that he had lost. So why, after all that time, did he suddenly become so violent? And here it is. This is the answer. Gaurav confronts Ria, and the whole truth just comes out. An old flame from college had gotten back in touch with her, a secret affair had started, and that phone call, the one that came through right in the middle of the investigation, yeah, that was him. Ankush, the spirit who hated betrayal more than anything, was being forced to watch it happen all over again in the one place he'd found some semblance of peace. And this is the part that gives you chills. Suddenly, that overheated phone makes perfect, terrifying sense. It wasn't just a random power surge or some technical glitch. No way. It was the focal point of all of Ankush's rage, a direct, violent reaction to the symbol of the betrayal that was happening right in front of him. So, you see, what kicked off as a paranormal investigation now forces this incredibly painful, very human confrontation. The secret's out. And the apartment is now the stage for some raw, emotional drama between a husband and a wife. Faced with all the evidence, both the paranormal stuff and the personal stuff, Ria confesses. The shock, the pain in that room must have been immense. Their happy home wasn't shattered by a ghost. It was shattered by a secret that the ghost brought into the light. As you can imagine, the immediate aftermath is just explosive. Samir, feeling completely betrayed, is talking about divorce. Ria is filled with what seems like genuine remorse. But then, Gaurav, the paranormal investigator, of all people, steps in. He makes the argument that Ankush doesn't want to see another relationship destroyed by this. He thinks Ankush wants to see forgiveness, the one thing he never got. And in this really incredible act of grace, Samir actually listens. He makes the choice to forgive Ria. And in that exact moment, the cold spots disappear. That heavy, oppressive feeling in the air just lifts, and the presence of Ankush is gone, for good. An act of human forgiveness is what finally gave that tormented spirit the peace he was so desperately craving. But for an investigator like Gaurav Tiwari, the work is never really done, is it? The very next day, a new headline pops up. A brutal attack, apparently by ghosts, in a haunted Mumbai hostel. And this whole thing leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. The haunting of Flat 402 was cracked open by a human secret, and it was solved by human forgiveness. But it really makes you wonder, what happens when the next entity isn't looking for resolution? What happens when the spirit's motive isn't born from a pain that we, the living, can actually heal?